We're now going to take a couple minutes here to talk to 19 Action News sports director Tony Zarrella. We're getting him on the line.
Hey, it's Tony.
Hey, Tony. This is Ralphie from High on Sports. You're on the air right now. How are you doing tonight?
All right. What's up?
Oh, not much. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing great, man. A lot of stuff to talk about. What's going on in your world?
Oh, not much. We were just breaking down the playoffs a little bit. A little disappointed that the home team went 8-0.
You're breaking up on me right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is it?
Oh, now you're back. You're good
okay.
now.
All right. Good. Well, we were talking NBA, so I think we'll keep it there. And since we have you on the line, let's go right into this. The Cavaliers obviously firing Byron Scott this week. Two names floating around. I want your take on this. Is possibly bringing Mike Brown back, and the rumors are out there about Phil Jackson. Do you see any light to either of these, and if so, which one seems more realistic?
Oh, Mike Brown by far. And, to be honest with you, and I wrote a blog about this for tonight that I put on 19actionnews.com under my Z files, but the possibility of Mike Brown coming back again is very intriguing to me. The Phil Jackson thing's never going to happen. It's good to dream big, but that's never going to happen. But the Mike Brown thing is interesting to me, and for those critics who talk about, well, yeah, Mike won 66 games in 2009, but they didn't win it. And yeah, he took him to the finals, but that was LeBron. If you're going to talk about how LeBron James was, harnessed by a lack of a second superstar and stuff like that, you got to give Mike Brown the same situation. He didn't have the supporting cast either. I think Mike Brown's an intriguing name, especially with a young team and some budding stars. I think he could make it work. Now, you'd still need that second superstar to win a title, but what I'm saying is he'd do a pretty good job coaching.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I thought the Phil Jackson thing when it came out, it was just a little over the top there. But and then you get all the speculation and rumors of, well, Phil could come back or come here, and then LeBron will come back the year after next. And I even heard one analyst on TV, I'm not going to name names, but suggest LeBron coming the year after next. And then after the Lakers amnesty Kobe, he joins Phil Jackson, and it just gets too crazy and too congested and a little too hard to believe.
Well, it is crazy. I mean, by then Kobe will need a walker to begin with. By the way, so will Phil. I mean, you're really hoping for a situation where it would be not unlike Mike Holmgren in the sense that, of course, Phil would actually coach, but maybe just home games. That's never going to happen. It's a fantasy. But it's cool. It's due diligence for the Cavaliers to make a phone call. But at the end there in L.A., if Phil went back, he didn't want to travel to the road games. Well, that's crazy, man. You're going to pay this guy $12 million a year to coach 41 games. It's not going to happen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to switch gears a little bit and get into some football talk here. Before we get into the actual Browns on the field, unfortunately, we do have to address some off the field. Obviously, with this Jimmy Haslam potential scandal going on and the FBI probe and the recorded conversations and everything, I don't want to get too into the nitty-gritty and everything, but do you think there's a chance that somehow he has to step down in the coming days as Browns owner and what that could mean for the franchise?
I think it would not be in the coming days. I do think there's a possibility that if this plays out as serious as it looks, and we could be talking 2 or 3 years down the road. Yes, I think that's a possibility. He defers ownership to maybe another family member or something. I hope it doesn't come to that. I'm not ruling him guilty, but when the feds come knocking at your door, they got something.
Oh,
they don't show up till they have it. And so I think it's a very serious situation, and I think at the very least, even if he was fined and he moves forward and pays his money, whatever, he looks very bad. For a guy who rode into town as the charming Southerner who, just really gave a feel-good angle to finally the ownership group of the Browns, it's so unbecoming of him as a CEO. And it's an awful situation. I hope it doesn't play out as serious as it can, but they don't put their ducks in a row and then come up with nothing when you talk about the FBI.
Absolutely.
Now, what kind of distraction is this to the franchise, if any, with all this stuff going on right before the draft and basically before he even takes over the team to a full effect?
Well, it's a good question. I don't think there's any distraction now because the guys that Jimmy put in place they're running the franchise, and that was the plan. If in a couple of years he had to defer the ownership, sell it, whatever, that'd be a nightmare because now you're back to square one again with the new owner bringing in his guys and a new system and a nightmare situation that we've lived too many times we don't want. So I don't think until then, I think it's business as usual. I don't think certainly the players care what's going on with Jimmy Haslam as long as the checks are coming. And I don't think that the guys in charge, I mean, Jimmy Haslam's not going to pick the draft pick anyway. So it doesn't change anything.
That's true. Speaking of the draft pick, though, obviously draft first round starts on Thursday. A lot of names being circulated and stuff. This, at least to me personally, this seems like one of the more up in the air, nobody knows what's going to happen kind of drafts we've had in some time. A name being thrown around in a lot of mocks, though, for the Browns is D. Milliner, and now some words coming out about maybe his shoulders and perhaps as healed as people think. Do you think it is? Do you think they're all in on him, the corner from Alabama?
I think they like him a lot. First of all, with the injury report, when people start floating that, it's because, especially close to the draft, be very leery of that because it's a lot of times other agents trying to affect his draft status in position. This guy is a game changer. He's a phenomenal player. If you think it's worth taking a corner at number 6 and he's on the board, I think you got to take him. I think I'm on record as saying I want game changers. I don't believe a perennial 5-win franchise, 5 wins a year, is in position to go for quantity over quality. I don't want more draft picks. I want game changers. And then in 2 years, when you're much better and you want to start adding with those middle picks and supplement, that's great. But it's a myth to think that the great teams don't have superstars. That's crazy. You need phenomenal game-changing players to turn the franchise around. They made a step in that direction last year with guys like Gordon and Trent, and I think you got to keep rolling with that. So would I want Miller? Yeah, I would. If he's on the board and Deion Jordan's not, or maybe the tight end from Notre Dame, which is he's kind of gaining some steam here, effort, or, but whatever, I guess what I'm saying is don't trade down. If you're going to trade down a few spots, okay, but don't trade down to 18 to 20 and choose an offensive guard because, seriously, I think I'll store him out of Berea and not look back.
Yeah.
That's what I've never been. I've liked sometimes in the past when they trade down. Obviously, a couple years ago, grabbing a Pro Bowler like Alex Mack was a great move, and Phil Taylor. But I've always thought, like you said with Tyler Everett from Notre Dame gaining some steam. A lot of people, originally didn't think he could go this early, but I've always been under the impression. If the guy could play at pick 16, he can play at pick 6. There's no point in shuffling around. If what you want is there, go for it. But ultimately, and another hot button issue with all of this is it possible at all that the Browns go quarterback in the first round? I
don't see how. I really don't. I just don't think. I think the temptation won't be there strong enough for them to do it. I think Brandon Weeden's going to look good in this offense. I remember Chud from 2007 and what Derek Anderson did.
Oh, yeah.
And I think if they played out guys, and he's not the guy, which of course they would know this season, well, you're back in the top 10 next year. Maybe there's a better quarterback class, and you address it then. But to do it now for guys that just, I said they worked them all out. I know they wanted to check out Geno to make sure that they're not missing the next phenomenal player. Unless they really came away from that thinking this guy's got a little Russell Wilson in him and he can really make stuff happen, I don't see how they take a quarterback.
Absolutely.
Not that early. They could take one later in the draft and try to develop them. But how many of those guys do you need?
Yeah.
Unless Thad Lewis is definitely not in your plans. I just think, and again, that guy, by the way, that you develop, Tom Brady happens about as often as Haley's Comet. You're not going to get that guy there and he's going to be your franchise guy. It just doesn't happen. Look at who's winning Super Bowls.
Absolutely. And especially, with the changes in CBA and rules and stuff over the last couple of years where you more or less don't even need a third quarterback to dress. So, and with the signing of Jason Campbell, it definitely lessens the need for the position at the moment. But we're nearing the end of our time here a little bit, but there's something I wanted to bring up with you before we finished. is something with Progressive Field, a mandatory drill that's taking place tomorrow.
Yes.
And now I'm not sure if our listeners know or not, but it was scheduled obviously before recent events that obviously with Boston going on and everything, it was scheduled before that. But I was just wondering if you wanted to say to our fans just sort of what to expect and
what does the public really need to know when they're downtown in the city tomorrow when they kind of see stuff going on?
Yeah, I think what they will notice is some SWAT teams driving in, stuff like that. They might hear some noises inside. Don't panic. This is all part of the plan. And, the timing was, when they announced it, was obviously awkward considering what happened in Boston a week ago today. But I think you'll see a few things, but most of it's, of course, going to take place inside the baseball stadium. So if you miss a couple of groups coming in, you won't even know what's happening. And if you hear a couple of noises, I don't think it's going to be a big deal.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure, all our listeners have that cleared up and everything.
Well, we're talking about this, and then someone's going to be calling in tomorrow thinking it's War of the Worlds. You can warn people all you want, but it's not.
SWAT team's down in Cleveland.
That's too true. Too true. Speaking of the Indians, by the way, turns out we have slightly more time than I thought. Sorry about that. But by the way, about the Indians, real major issue going right now is starting pitching.
Oh.
Do you think there's anything that they get done in the near future, or is this sort of just what's going to be the ultimate Achilles heel the rest of the season?
No, I don't believe it will. Listen, I picked them to win 91 games, and so people want me drug tested. I get it. I believe in this team, and I believe that the rotation will look nothing like it does, save Masterson and maybe somebody else in about a month. And I did pick them to win those games because I thought Trevor Bauer would make an impact this season. I thought Casimir would, and I thought Carrasco would. So that has to play out for my thing to come true. But the bottom line is they're not going to be shuffling Brett Myers. I just don't see it. I don't see how they're going to look like this pitching-wise in another month. I know you guys were tight, and I didn't mean to push back my time. The next time we do it, I'll come in studio and we'll have a little more time to do it.
All right, so that sounds fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
All right, guys, keep in touch.
Thanks.
All right, take